So, Stephen Kearney was out in the exercise yard in Dublin's Mountjoy prison on an evening in recent weeks when he was set upon by at least three prisoners. And it sounded like an absolutely horrific, brutal attack. He is in critical condition ever since, which would suggest that he's on life support.
Yeah.
Now, prison is a dangerous place, but this is a rarity for somebody to be beaten almost to death. And it's still questionable whether he's going to survive this attack, isn't it? He was on his way out. He had served a sentence and was literally weeks from being released back to freedom. He's from Ballymun, has 100 plus convictions himself, and has a manslaughter conviction for killing a man.
Yeah, a very horrific, horrendous case where he beat a man to death. I mean, Stephen Kearney would be one of these sort of chaotic criminals. As you said, he was, I think he was just 20 when he was convicted of manslaughter, beat a man to death. And, he was when he did come to court, I think he got a sort of 8-year prison sentence, and he was very apologetic in court and spoke about, his regret. But despite all of those words, he's continued to amass conviction after conviction. However, all of that said, this guy is not one of these dangerous gangland criminals. He's a chaotic sort of criminal who's, just continued to be involved in basically drug-related crime.
And what you have is, of course, prison authorities, I think, have homed in on a suspect who is a guy we've spoken about before on the podcast, Robert Roo Redmond. And he's another extremely chaotic character.
Yeah.
So he is suspected of sort of ordering this attack, of getting involved in himself, or just ordering?
I think ordering it primarily. There certainly was an incident in the yard, and there certainly seems to have been some sort of shiv involved. But Roo Redmond is one step removed from it.
This was before this happened, the incident with the shiv.
No, I think there was an implement like that was confiscated by the prison officials, but Stephen Kearney suffered the wounds he suffered are from a physical assault, to do with a knife.
So there was a previous attempt.
There was some I think there was some sort of confrontation, and one of the other men suffered some sort of injury as well. But either way, what the prison officials suspect is that behind this is Robert Roo Redmond. Now, Robert Roo Redmond, as you said, certainly would qualify as a chaotic criminal, but he's a chaotic criminal of a whole other level. He would be, we've spoken about him obviously before. He was, I suppose, to a degree, a lone wolf gangland criminal, it might be fair to say. He operated as an enforcer. He was a drug dealer, a convicted cocaine dealer, but sort of operating on the edge of a number of criminal organizations, including sort of maybe the Kinnian cartel, but also, people that were players in the Kulak feud. But he would never have been regarded as being, I suppose, a member of one of them, mostly because he was too erratic and violent. Now he's serving a life sentence for the murder of Barry Wolverson, one of those crimes that the motive has never fully become clear. But basically, Roo Redmond was part of a hit team that shot Barry Wolverson. I think he was a father of, I think he had 8 children, did he, Barry Wolverson? But he was shot. He didn't die instantly.
I think he survived for 13 months and was in, I'm not sure how much brain activity he had during that period of time. It was horrendous because the family were going in and out to see him, and he was just, being kept alive, really, I think. And, usually in those cases, somebody will ultimately die from an infection, don't they? They get something in hospital or in the care homes, and they can't fight it because their systems are so depleted, and that's ultimately why they die. Sometimes that can cause a little bit of...
well, it can cause a bit of legal confusion. Did he die as a result?
Exactly.
Of the, for example, if there's sort of a one punch attack, for example, it can
be,
it can be. But in this case, he was
on
initially
trial for murder.
He was initially charged with attempted murder, and that was simply upgraded.
Yeah.
But even as that case was rolling along, a number of other cases came before the courts involving Roo Redmond. Some of them that were dealt with in the aftermath of the Wolverson verdict, including where he was convicted in relation to his role in the murder of Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis, who was shot dead as he walked his child in outside a house in Coolock. In that occasion, Roo Redmond is not believed to have been the actual shooter, but he was convicted in relation to his role in the in.
What was his conviction for?
Redmond was initially charged with murder, but ultimately he pled guilty to conspiring to murder him, which is a lesser charge, and he received a 7-year sentence for that crime. Obviously, the fact is that he's serving a life sentence anyway, so it doesn't, that'll be
run in tandem.
Yeah, it runs in tandem, and also even while he was awaiting those 2 court dates, he was also further sentenced in relation to a submachine gun that was found. So, I mean, when you talk about
that Jordan Davis murder, like there was a lot of activity, gangland activity around that time, and a lot of people were killed. I think Jordan Davis was killed in the aftermath of his friend Sean Little's murder. Possibly had placed a, Facebook sympathy quotation or something before he took his 4-month-old child out in the buggy, went around the corner and was shot dead himself. The thing about that murder for me was that child in that buggy.
Yeah.
And the proximity of the bullets. And obviously it was Wayne Cooney who was convicted of the murder and the shooter. And actually Roo Redmond's sister, and we spoke about her before, Rachel Redmond, was also convicted in relation to this because she had picked up Cooney was in a relationship with him at the time. But it really does show the callousness of everything, the Davis case, because his mother, actually, Jordan Davis's mother, came forward and gave a very profound and detailed and articulate impact statement. Sandra Davis described how her son was a gentle giant, but she talked about how she noticed he all of a sudden started buying expensive runners and shoes, and she wondered where he got them. And he said to her that he was just selling a little bit of cannabis or something. She didn't really believe him. And then he started to become stressed. The threats started to come. She hoped that having the baby would put him on the straight and narrow. It's such an ordinary story, a normal sort of, you can connect with that story. I think we all can, as parents, connect with that, how, somebody can just get sort of drawn into that world, and then you hope for them that they'll go on the straight and narrow, which many do, I suppose. But unfortunately for her, it was Roo Redmond that believed he was owed money from Jordan Davis.
70,000 is what he's demanding, and I mean, it amazes me when you think about it. Jordan Davis is a very young man from an ordinary family. The idea that 70 grand he could just raise it, and he's getting these texts from, I mean, they were read out in court from Roo Redmond saying, fucking clown that can't pay bills, trying to be a big man. I hear a lot about you. Trust me, I'll get you soon. I'm on your case, mate. It won't be long. Followed by, get off me phone very soon. Bang, bang. So this is coming at him.
And totally illogical as well. If you're owed 70,000 by somebody who is desperate to pay you back, why would you shoot them dead?
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. I mean, you'd keep them alive and hope that they'd pay you back the money.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at this, Roo Redmond was literally a one-man crime wave, because there was other crimes that never resulted in a prosecution that were simultaneously going on. So you had somebody really erratic over the space of 4 or 5 years who was, absolutely very, very dangerous. I mean, the absolute top level of it. Now, Stephen Kearney also with a similar number of convictions to Roo Redmond, but really in a whole other sort of series of just not in the same league.
And for anyone who's interested in a little bit of background on Robert Roo Redmond and his family, we did a podcast, episode 963, called Murder and Redemption. And in it, we spoke at length about his background, his childhood, his brother, who had gone down a path of criminality, but who then started walking a path of redemption and is now a very eminent community worker. And we spoke about it because of the fact that Roo Redmond and his sister Rachel were both before the courts on this murder, and how it had come to that, how you have two siblings heading into jail while one is sort of working tirelessly on the outside to try and steer kids away from that kind of life of crime. It's an interesting kind of a snapshot into what went wrong in a family, isn't it? And
and what can go right. I mean, Ger Redmond certainly has availed of opportunities that have come his way, and how it doesn't have to only go one way. But
but it's like a certain thing happened, I suppose, for them in their childhood, which was like a rock dropping in the middle of a pond, and the ripple effects keep coming and keep coming. And but anyway, that is episode 963 for anybody who should be interested in. We of course planned to have a partay for episode 1000. It's come and gone. And what are we on now?
I don't know.
Where are all these podcasts coming from? I mean, clearly from a lot of hard work and preparation.
Episode 1043.
1043.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But the preparation is
stunning.
Yeah. Like there's been a few things, maybe it's just that I've been away on holidays and I've come back, and it's just, you can hear things properly.
Yeah.
And there was just a few conversations that we had there today with various people. One conversation involved there being a researcher for podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, wow. That would be super.
Yeah.
And the second was if we needed headphones and, we needed to be able to see screens so as we could get
Would you not like to hire somebody to write your bullying anecdotes towards me? Would it not be good if you didn't even have to think of them yourself? Would that be nice?
I'd be quite happy to stick with that, but if we could have help with the rest of it. That's the stuff that comes naturally to me.
Okay, you're gonna.
I gave you a huge compliment today.
What was that? I don't remember.
How can you possibly forget?
I don't know.
I told you I liked the colour of your runners. I said they were a nice colour.
Yeah, that's. I suppose from a Nicola talent, that would be a huge compliment. From a normal person, that might be a day-to-day sort of.
But you were rather pleased with yourself.
Well, look, actually. I mean, they're not flowing in my direction on a constant basis, so I do take them when they're offered.
They're a nice blue.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well chosen. Did you just choose them because they had the size, or did you go for the colour? Did you peruse the runners?
I perused them, but my main criteria is if they're very comfy.
Yeah. You still doing your 5K?
I'm still doing my 5K, yeah. No, I went up briefly and I'm back doing 5 now.
Yeah.
So I picked any piece of clothing. The first criteria is it very comfy?
Yeah, and that's it.
That would be the first. And, then if they look good, but I suppose I can really wear anything I have that.
Yeah, well, anyway, as it's been proven in your interactions with the public, it doesn't seem to... You're doing well, I think, are you?
Look,
the Irish man syndrome, is it?
My popularity is growing, I believe. Yeah. No, not with any proof of such.
No.
But I do believe it nonetheless.
What else? We're going to be so busy going forward. I feel like it's a new year, even though I've literally just been on a week's holidays. But we've an awful lot to do.
We've a lot to do, and there's big stories coming.
We have to. And I say it constantly, but there's so much stuff in the north we need to get onto, and we really have to kind of be more organised with that. Stephen Moore, our colleague up in Belfast, has been doing a few, and hopefully he will do some more podcasts with us. We're going to try and bring in some of the other journalists as well to talk to us about their stories. There's a couple of crackers that have been published since I was away. And Alan Sherry had a great story. I'm hoping he'll come in and talk to us about the House of Prayer. Isn't it funny how there's some tales that just keep coming back, and stories that keep giving and giving and giving. You wouldn't believe it.
No.
The twists and the turns.
Well, there's some very unique Irish stories, isn't it? And
isn't that it?
Kind of one of them. People will remember the self-proclaimed visionary Christina Gallagher, but she could only have become a kind of she's a very Irish kind of religious figure, is she?
Yeah, well, I mean, she was supposed to have had this stigmata.
Yeah.
And everyone gave her their money. Well, lots of people gave her their money. And anyway, we let Alan Sherry tell the rest because it's just quite amazing. There was all sorts of stories there used to be in Ireland. Is Ireland still as quaint and entertaining? And
well, I mean,
I remember one story going on it, and there was this at the centre of it was a rooster. And there was two neighbours had gone to absolute war over this rooster. And it was like almost down to pistols at dawn, you know. The individual who owned the rooster was refusing totally and utterly to shut it up, and the neighbour who had to listen to it every morning. Those things start about 5 a.m.
Look, I mean, I think neighbourly disputes, like there's still some great neighbourly disputes.
Unbelievable stuff.
Like Ireland has changed, I suppose, and some of it is, of course, as well, the level of reporting from some of the local papers.
That's definitely
is much less.
Mm.
And they're by nature, because they're smaller organizations, they're more careful. But I still think there's some uniquely Irish stories, and some of our, in fact, we've talked about Scotland obviously a few times now, and you can see culturally some of the newspapers over there, which I've been reading a lot because of that feud.
Yeah,
how much closer we are to Scotland than we are to England in terms of our culture, even in our reporting of crime, and how people can, the interest in that. Like, England is a really different country.
Yes.
But there is a Celtic
there definitely
Celtic
is.
feel to how crime is covered in between Scotland and
because
Ireland.
Scotland as well, I think the figures are known, people know them by their first names nearly, and they have all those nicknames, and it is quite extraordinary.
It's really, really similar.
Really similar,
even though, but England is a totally and utterly different culture in terms of the reporting on it. And it's just interesting. It's a Celtic, maybe it's a Celtic.
But I think if you dig deeper into England, say into the likes of Liverpool and Birmingham, there is quite, it's more localized. Like the UK is so big, isn't it?
It is, and also it's just a culture. And I remember actually, obviously The Wire, the series. I remember when it was really big, the Heralds did a swap with somebody from Baltimore for a week, I think, and they had a Baltimore crime reporter over here, and the Herald, somebody went over there, or something like that, or they there was some sort of connection. But the Baltimore guy was saying, well, it's amazing in Ireland because people are being named, and people are really interested in their lives, and we know all of this stuff in Baltimore, but nobody's bothered hearing about it. And obviously The Wire was,
no one's bothered hearing about it, and yet The Wire was one of the most succzesuccessful.
Yes, but they wanted the reporting, they wanted figures, and they wanted, local politicians to say this, and maybe they weren't interested in in the ins and outs of the personalities involved. But definitely in Scotland is much similar to Ireland.
For sure. Okay, well, as I say, we've loads to do, so we might as well get on and move on to the next podcast. So for the moment,
we'll bounce on our comfy runners.
Guys all enjoyed that one. I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.